everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bench to Bold. I'm Marnie.
And I'm Elisa.
And today we have one of my favorite people, Ken Harvey. So thank you, Ken. Hey, Ken.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
It's good to come in with a
Yes.
title of one of your favorite people. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
I know. I thought I was her favorite person.
Well, one of my-
she said one
Yes.
of, so you know.
She has one of many. That's
Gave
right.
some wiggle room.
Well, there's to be at the top of the pyramid. You're
Yeah.
in the top. Ken is in the top. People that I admire and respect and have been great advocates out in the community. Those are the things that I look for as the top people in my life. And so, Ken, you're certainly at the top.
Awesome.
And we're really excited to have you on because, you know, the name of the show is Bench to Bold. And you have had many moments where you've been very bold, but there have been a few that have been where you've probably felt a little benched. Mm-hmm. And so today we would just love to share your story with everybody. And, you can take it from the beginning. How did you get started in football, Ken? How did that career happen for you?
All right. I will warn you, ex-players who haven't done a lot of interviews recently talk a long time. So cut me off when I'm going on and on and on because I get a chance to be on the mic and I may go crazy a little bit.
Go for it.
So my dad, mom, I'm from Austin, Texas, and everybody was a big Cowboy fan, and Texas and Cowboy football, that's kind of religion there. And but I was also kind of a kid who used to always just sit and watch TV and dream and fantasize and all that. And so my parents were like, you need to get out the house. You need to do something productive. Go play some football. So I got into Pop Warner football, played that for a little bit, got the nickname Hammerhead, which I don't like anymore. So don't call me Hammerhead. But got the nickname Hammerhead. And then from there, it was I played on and off. It was a long journey. I don't know. You want me to take you all the way to college?
Yes, I love your Ken. I love your story.
I haven't heard your story, so I want to hear it.
It's a very inspiring story.
I played a little bit all through junior high. Then I played a little bit in high school. Then I got to my junior year and ran into issues with truancy. Missing days of school. I wasn't really doing anything crazy or bad, just, missing could become a habit. I was a quiet kid who was kind of an introvert and just, missing just became easy to do. But at the same time, I was playing football. It was an off season. And so the two kind of collided together and it got to a point where it was either, you're going to make straight Fs. We could put you in an easy class and make you pass, just so you could play football. I had all those type of options. And for me, it's like, I'm not dumb. It's almost insulted. I'm not dumb. But I also kind of figured I need to get my life right, my mind right. And so I dropped out of high school, my senior year of high school, dropped out, got my mind kind of right, or I don't want to say got my mind right. During this time of dropping out, you easily get labeled as the world can label people in several different ways. And you can listen to the label or you could just brush the label off. But automatically I was labeled as dumb. He's a dropout in high school. He's dumb. But I also was in the weight room and I lifted weights a lot. And so I was big and labeled as dumb. And it was frustrating to death because that wasn't me. I figured that, that's not me. And so so during that time, I got really depressed. I got to the point of feeling like, and a lot of times it's all in your own mind, but feeling like I had no reason to be on this earth. And so for me, took a bunch of pills, tried to end it all, and it didn't happen. And I felt like I heard God saying to me, I was on my knees praying like, what am I supposed to do, in tears? And I felt like God said to me, you have a purpose and a destiny. You have a purpose and a destiny. And sometimes that's all you need to hear is that you have a purpose and a destiny. And so I ended up going back to school. Didn't play my senior year of high school football. Tried to, asked the coach. He's like, no. Coach even went so far as to say, you're losing, you'll be a loser all your life. But I went back to high school, finished up, and then I wanted to go to college because in my mind, it was like I wanted to prove to everybody that I wasn't dumb. And so but I didn't have good grades. I didn't have the best grades, and we didn't have any money. And so it's kind of like, how in the world are you going to get to college? And so that old saying, speak it into existence. I was working out, and I met a guy in the gym who just admired the way I was working out. And he told me about a junior college in Oakland, California. I'm in Texas. I've never been outside of, as far as I could walk. And so me and another guy from Austin, we get on a plane, we go to Oakland, California, play there at this junior college for 2 years, Laney Junior College, played there for 2 years, get a scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley. And for those that don't know, that's like one of the best schools in the country. And so it's kind of like, wow, God was right. I got a purpose and a destiny. And so I go there, I play there for 2 years. Everyone thought, I was a good player, but I don't know if people saw me. Cal wasn't really winning when I was playing. And so I was kind of on the back burner, but then I had some post games, East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, and I was the most valuable defensive player both of those. I did well in the combine. And the year that I came out, everybody was looking for linebackers. So lo and behold, I get drafted 12th pick in the first round of the NFL draft. I go to the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Cardinals then. No one had ever heard of, this was that first year moving to Phoenix, and no one had ever heard of the Phoenix Cardinals. And so I go there, they look at me and they were like, well, you're too small to be one of our linebackers. This is back in the day when the linebackers were 6'5", 6'4", 265 pounds, 270 pounds. You're too small to be one of our linebackers, so we're going to try to make you a third down cover guy. And that wasn't my thing. So I almost lost my job my first year because I was getting destroyed. And then I kept trying to convince them to let me be a pass rusher. And ultimately, I was able to be a pass rusher. And then from there, I just kept playing. Played in Arizona for 6 years. Free agency comes about. I go to the Washington then Redskins and play here for 5 years. Out of those 5 years, 4 of those 5 years, I was most valuable not most valuable. I was Pro Bowl 4 of those 5 years. So Pro Bowl for 4 years, and had a pretty good career on the Ring of Fame and the whole thing like that. So, it's kind of God's message was true, and I did have a purpose, and it was to try to play ball and to try to do some good in the world, and also to kind of just try to protect and look up and help those who don't believe in themselves or don't see anything beyond where they're at. So that's the football career. And then there's other parts of my life, but I'll shut up and let you guys talk if you want.
No. Ken, I love your story because there's so many things that everybody can relate to. Obviously, not feeling good about themselves, not feeling valuable, not feeling worthy, the resilience, the grit. But you also have to add in that during your career, you had what people would have considered career-ending injuries, but that still did not stop you. So let's talk about that a little bit and how those setbacks also became things that are part of the Ken Harvey tapestry of success.
So we had, I tore my ACL in a football game. It was against the Atlanta Falcons. I went up to try to take on a offensive lineman, and another offensive lineman came at my knee. I think it was accidentally, but hit the knee. I think I partially tore my ACL. It may have been, permanently tore, but it felt like it was partially tear. I couldn't go sideways, but I kept playing in the game. And then, I should have went out, but I kept playing in the game. And then ultimately I got one guy stood me up and another guy hit my shoulder. My foot was planted in the ground and heard this pop. And boom, I'm on the ground and tore my ACL. So that took me out. And back then, recovering from ACL was kind of, a death thing. Yeah. Then after that, about a year after that, I tore the rotator cuff in my shoulder and the labrum in my shoulder. And so I had to get that repaired. And that was in Arizona. So all those were like career-ending injuries that people thought were career-ending injuries. On top of that, before all that happened, our first son, me and my wife, and I've known my wife since the junior college. Me and my wife, our first son, passed away from SIDS. For me, it was easier to deal with because, you can take that anger and hit somebody. And, that's what football was for. You hit somebody. That was me, anger. She had to deal with that, not necessarily by herself. It was good that she had a good network of people around her to try to help her through it. And so those were kind of some of the setback moments in my life. But fortunately, with all that happened, my main focus was to, just do the best I could. Sometimes when you feel like you have a purpose and a destiny, that's your focus. And so all the little things along the way don't mean as much because you're not necessarily looking at things along the way as a setback. You're looking at it as a challenge to get to your destiny. And that's the kind of way I looked at it. It was like, these are just challenges that try to stop me from getting to where I'm supposed to be. And so for me, it was, how can I train? How can I work out? How can I achieve and show everybody? And I guess that was my whole life during that time. I wanted to show everybody I was going to make it. That wasn't going to define me as a failure. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to stop. I'm going to keep going. That's my destiny. That's where I'm supposed to be. And so, I kind of pushed through all that. And I say it wasn't necessarily just me. I had some great strength coaches that really had techniques that really helped my legs get stronger. And from the torn ACL and the shoulder, I had great teammates who really helped me out along the way. So it's not just me, but there's me in that to keep going on. So yeah, that was some of the things that set me back a little bit.
So where do you, Ken, this resilience and grit and purpose and destiny, where did all of that come from? Like your mother or your father or you? I mean, like some of the genesis of some of those things, because those are big some people only have one of those characters qualities in them. You have many. So how did all that come together?
I think it was like a lot of it was faith. Like our grandmother lived, I don't know, about 100 yards from the church. That's how important the church was for them. And I think they used to pray all the time. And then my parents were the ones who, my dad worked 2 jobs to try to make sure he took care of everybody, 7 kids. And, you could easily leave and disappear. He stood there and busted his butt to make sure everybody was supported. My mom would take me to football practice, and sometimes she would hop the fence with me, stuff that you would never imagine your mom doing, but she wanted to make sure her son was taken care of. And so, you all those things get sucked into you, and you don't realize them until you need them. And then I think that whole thing of seeking God it's knowing and hearing that you have a purpose and you have a destiny. And I think sometimes you can speak things into existence and you can speak things out of existence. Your environment can tell you you're a failure. Your environment can tell you that you're not good enough. The things and the words and the stuff that you hear and see on TV can tell you you're not good enough. There's a lot of things in the world that can say that you're not good enough. And sometimes we need those people to say, you know what, I see something in you, or man, you look like you got a lot of potential, or I believe in you. Those simple words can change a person's destiny. And I've had some people that, neighbors who spoke into my life and said, you know what, you should be something great. I see all this great potential in you. I've had people out of nowhere, just walking on the street and say, you know what, you look like you're too big to be doing nothing. You got all this potential, son. Put it to use. And so all that happened. And then, I was just blessed. I mean, I was strong, but I busted my butt in the gym, but I was strong. So I gained strength quick. And so, in testing on paper, I look pretty good, or I think I shocked a lot of people on paper. So that part worked out. And then, dreaming, you got to have a dream and a belief, right? I used to watch all these karate movies of the great comeback, that old, in a karate movie, somebody would get beat down and they go wander around and they find his old master and he'll teach them all these techniques and they become this great karate master. That's the way I used to look at life. And like when you start believing things, sometimes it can come true. The belief is kind of a key part of it. So that's it.
It's like the Rocky movies, right?
Could be, I guess. I mean, I was, I can't box, but I think it's,
well, I feel like a lot of it's self-fulfilling prophecies too.
It is. I mean, people say you'll go in the direction of your belief And
Right.
if you believe that that's what you're supposed to do, then some of those things that could pull you and stop you, you brush aside because you're not focusing on the things on the side of you, you're focusing on what's in front of you. So that was, that was the journey to get to the NFL, to stay in the NFL and play there. And I was, like I said, I was fortunate to do it and play all those years. Post football, that same belief thing kind of set me back, right? When I had dropped out of school and I used to train and say to myself all the time, I would say it out loud when I was running, you're not going to quit. You're not going to give up. You'll never stop. Not going to quit. Won't give up. Won't ever stop. Say it. Boom, 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 over and over and over again. Start believing that. And so that's kind of the way I play. He's the guy who he won't stop. He won't give up. He'll keep going for 4 quarters. But then when I retired, I was injured. In my last year, I was injured. And when I retired, it wasn't the retirement like most players. You don't retire the way you want to retire. And so, but in my mind, I felt like I quit. And I heard my coach from way back in high school say that you're a loser, you're going to be a loser all your life. And I felt like I gave up and I felt like I quit, even though it didn't make any sense. It was an injury, it was whatever. In my mind, I started believing that. And then that becomes what you believe also. And so your life becomes that. And so, a lot of the years post-football, I was kind of like hiding in broad daylight. I was in front of everybody. You're Ken Harvey, you're this former football player, man, you had a great career, you blah, blah, blah. But inside, I was like, man, I quit. I gave up. I'm a quitter. I stopped. And so I was.
Did you feel like you did not have an identity?
I felt like I didn't have an identity. And then the pressing thing was like, I quit. It just felt like I quit. And I didn't keep pushing. And then I had no direction to go. I had nothing else to say, this is my purpose. This is my destiny. And so all those things kind of really packed on, and it was a struggle for a long time, and I think that's what a lot of people, ex-military, people who are older, senior citizens, they retire from a job they've been doing all their life. People who,
and they're kind of
moms
yeah,
who,
it's really
who's
hard.
been moms and watching kids. Not that that's what all moms do, but but that was your identity. It's gone now. It's what do you do next? And a lot of people get lost. And so for me, I was lost trying to find what's my purpose, who am I, and what's my identity. And so
I feel like so many athletes struggle with that.
It's athletes, but like I said, it's people in general. It's just you see it more prevalent in athletes because there's this immediate spotlight. Somebody,
especially for athletes that have been the star of the show. And then all of a sudden you're not the star anymore.
You become invisible. The door's open when you're playing. Great game, Ken, man. Let me get the door for you. Let me out.
Yes. Everybody wants your autograph and all the pictures.
And then when it starts kind of fading away, or the doors don't open as much and all that stuff. And then, even that is also perspective, and my perspective was I had that I quit mentality, that, you lost, you gave up mentality. And so everything was kind of based off of, even the good stuff around me was always clouded by that. And so that's why it's important, what you believe about yourself is a big factor in where you're going to go. And so that's kind of had been my life as a story. And then there's another part of it, part 2. So we could talk about that when you want to.
No, I mean, obviously, Ken, your story of being on the field and being a professional athlete and talking about how those are all great themes that everybody can relate to, not being on the field as a professional athlete, but figuring out what happens when I worked at NFL Films and I worked for Steve Sable, we would always talk about when the cheering stops. And it, like you were saying, obviously your cheering was in a stadium with 80,000 people, but the mailman, when they no longer are the mailman, they're now they're having to adjust and find themselves and figure it out. Same way as, if you're a stay-at-home mom and that's your gig, and then how you pivot and adjust. And I think that people that have some good people around them, and maybe, obviously having some belief, whether it's, going to church, going to temple, whatever, having some religious belief around them, they can be able to be more flexible in their next journey that they're going to embark upon. So, all right. So now you're retired from professional football, and so that you are, sitting around, and Janice, your wife, is probably like, all right, Ken, now what?
My wife, my wife
what happens next?
is a blessing. She's a great lady. She endured a lot, having to deal with my mood swings and all that, me trying to figure out what to do, me, being scared to step out and to try something different. You've been doing something all your life. And sometimes it's fearful to take that chance and step out and expose yourself. For me, there was one time, like I'd always been creative, but I think I was a people pleaser too, right? And so in a creative vein, I was there, but someone said, athletes don't do that, and you're not supposed to do that. I kind of forgot the lesson that I learned earlier and would listen to people. And so in the creativity, I kind of always kind of poo-poo that and pushed it to the side, or wouldn't go 100% with that. But then ultimately, I did a kid's book when I was playing football, and the first kids book I did, the guy Terry Crews from America's Got Talent, he did the artwork, amazing artwork, amazing artist. We were kind of on sync in that, my story was simple in the story, but he did this great artwork that just brought it to life. And the reason I did the children's book was one of my sons came home and they were talking about this contest. And if you win this contest, you get to be one of the characters. But he was kind of sad because there weren't any brown characters. And looking back then, this was 25 years ago. So looking at all the shows and all the different things like that, there weren't any brown characters. And I realized, man, through the eyes of babes, this is what they saw. This is some of the same thing I was talking about, how your environment can create who you are and tell you what you are and all that stuff. And so I was like, I want my boys to see themselves as a character in a book. Any other kid read it and they'll say that's just a hide and seek book. But for my boys, I wanted them to know that was them. And so I did my first children's book. And then years later, we took the same children's book and we used augmented reality with it. And that actually kind of helped turn my life around doing the book the second time. I can tell you about that.
Of course, Ken. I love the whole story because I like to refer to Ken Harvey as a true Renaissance man, because you've been able to, what I learned in school was that, the Renaissance men were really able to have a skill set in, many different things. And that is what is so delightful about certainly people like you. So you are really talented in many different areas, and are a great husband and father and all those, and friend as well.
You found a way to just continually reinvent yourself.
I appreciate it. And like I said, I've learned to appreciate that. You can always take that. And if your mindset is not right, you can take those compliments and be like, yeah, well, and not really embrace it. And so I've learned to embrace it. During this whole time of kind of depressed, trying to figure out what am I supposed to be, where am I supposed to go after football, I got to a point where we were going to do, I started reading in the Bible, Exodus 4:2. Moses was on the hilltop and God said, "What's in your hand?" And Moses said, "The staff." And then and to me, God was saying, Moses, if you trust me, that staff, that simple thing that you have to tend the sheep and to sleep on or whatever, that simple stick, if you trust me, the same skill sets that you have, but instead of you tending sheep, you're going to tend people. You'll lead 1 million people. You'll be able to part the Red Sea if you trust me. And if you read the story, it's like God told Moses, put his hand in his vest, and then it came out leprous, and then he put it back and it came out right. And I look at that, God said, yours is the hand that controls the staff, but mine is the hand that controls the staff, just so you know. So I took that and I was like, what, let me do these children's books, the Come Find Me book, the one with my boys, let me do it again. I called up Terry, and by that time, he was kind of a big star, becoming a big major movie star and all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, that's great. Let's do it. And let's do everything. I'll pay for everything. Let's do this thing really well. And so we did the book, and then another friend called up, and he had a augmented reality studio. And I was like, you know what? It'd be great to do this book with augmented reality because that's where technology is going. I don't want the book to be where it's a video and it's no interaction between the parent and the child. But this way, the parent and the child have to work together and still read the book, because that's what you feel is that bond when you're working together. And so all that comes together. And I feel like God was saying, Ken, what's in your hand? What's the gift that you have in your hand? I said, okay, my creativity. And so I started doing the children's books. And then from that came some other books. And I started doing a bunch of children's books. Then a friend challenged me to write a novel. And I did a thriller suspense novel. And then I did another one. And then I did another book about my life. And just from there, I just try to use my creative side. But I still felt I didn't embrace it completely. Ultimately, this year, which is kind of crazy, last year, I started embracing it and said, you know what, I'm going to start embracing things. And so for my 60th birthday, I did stand-up comedy. I don't know if they were laughing at me or laughing with me or whatever, but
no, everybody loved it, Ken. Everybody, the feedback was Ken Harvey was there for,
In fact, Carla earlier asked us if Marnie went to your comedy
I may
show,
do it
so
again.
she must have went.
Just kind of to re-push.
I hope so.
I'll let you know. But the thing is, the theme of it is never too late. And the meaning that, even though it doesn't always go the way you want it to go, it's never too late to start trying something new, to start pushing in wherever you want to push. Because if that's where you're supposed to be, maybe sometimes God is trying to teach you a lesson or teach you something that, you need to know. And maybe what you're doing is not learning what he's trying to teach you, but it's never too late to learn that. And so I've done a few things. And this year I'm trying to really embrace it. I guess to move on and say, what am I doing now? I've learned focus a little bit. I think I'm ADHD. I'm all over the place at times. 3 things I'm focusing on is I'm doing a 12 episode animation series. It's called Claudia and the Prayer Warriors. And it's about a young girl who's it's like a superhero origin. But she gets her strength through people praying for her. Because I think in this world, people are getting people are misusing prayers, and then the younger generation is not really understanding that prayers do work. Sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it. Sometimes it takes longer, all that stuff, but it can work. And so it's called Claudia and the Prayer Warriors. Then I'm doing a sports game that I created. It's a live action sport, like where people actually playing the sport, not a video game, where they're actually on the field playing the sport. And so it's movement-based mental wellness. The things that we talked about that you lost during sports, after sports, you lose a sense of community, you lose a sense of brotherhood, you lose a sense of purpose, you lose, strategy, all those things leadership, all those things that you lose when you come out of team sports. You realize sports is a great way to keep everybody together. It's a great way for community. And so if I can create something that brings people together, give them a chance to talk, give them a chance to achieve goals, and give them a chance to win, then that's cool. Does it seem so far out that it's impossible? Me being a dropout in high school and getting drafted in the first round seemed impossible and far out there. So creating that is called Floatball E, the letter E, and then the comedy. There's some comedy stuff I want to do. So those are the 3 things I'm focusing on the most. There's other things, but those are the 3 that I'm trying to focus on the most.
And you're also very charitable too, Ken. So you do a lot of things in the community. You do.
I do a lot. I've done a lot. I've done. The one thing you realize is you'll never be able to do everything. You'll never be able to please everybody. You'll never run out of things to do. There are a lot of people a lot of charities, a lot of people that need help and things that need help. And so somewhere down the line, you also have to figure out what are you going to do? And you can't do a little bit of everything. You got to figure out, what are the things that you want to do? And so that's what I've been doing for the last 20, 30 years. I've tried to help everybody as much as possible. And, that's something I took from my parents, that they were great people. They helped everybody in whichever way they can. And so I've done that, but now I got to figure out what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? And that's where I'm at is saying, okay, I need to help people out. Sometimes you got to take a chance. Marnie, you, Jamie, John Booty, we do a podcast called Commander's Justice. It was a crazy idea, but you guys believed in it and took a chance to come out and talk sports, Commander's sport. I know you're Eagles, but Commander's sport, and you took a chance with that, and it's cool.
Well, I'm a football fan, Ken. I'm a fan. When you're a football fan, it's you welcome the opportunities to talk about athletes and sports and games and the fans.
And I think people appreciate
so I really get to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes you such a great partner is that you are a fan. And so that's I don't want to say I'm not trying to really pat myself on the back because believe me, I got a lot of issues, but I just want I at the end of the day, like someone said one time, you got the day you were born and the day you die, and what are you doing with that dash in between? And I'm kind of like, okay, if everybody comes at my funeral and they say, you know what, Ken was a heck of a football player, and that was it. There's such a small part of my life, and and hopefully 80 years, 90 years, that's such a small part of my life to say that's all I am. There has to be more. And so that's, to me, is kind of my mission now. Is like, what can I do to go beyond? And that's where I'm at now. Is trying to go beyond. And some of the simple things. You look at this big 280 pounds now, but 280 pound guy who is fearful of stepping out, fearful of what people are going to say, fearful of opinions and all that stuff, and maybe being in a position that's uncomfortable. And you have to realize, okay, you got to step out sometimes. If I was too fearful to get on the plane and leave Austin, Texas, and go to this junior college in Oakland, California to start my football career, none of this stuff would have happened. Sometimes you have to take chances, and sometimes you have to take the steps. Don't change who you are. I still try to treat everybody with respect. I still try to be a good person, but you also still have to take a chance. Sometimes you have to get outside your environment because that's your comfort zone. And so for me, it was taking chances, and I like to say that God would oftentimes have you do things over and over again until you learn the lesson he's trying to teach you. So it seems like my life had been going, this is a repeat of that, not exactly the same stuff, but kind of a repeat of those dropping out years. And God is saying, you still have a purpose and you still have a destiny. What are you going to do? And so now I'm taking more chances. I'm stepping out a little bit. It's okay if people laugh at me. I'm trying to speak it into existence. Some of those same steps of hopefully making a difference in people's lives.
Oh, they definitely are. And because, your bravery, because what I, also respect about you, Ken, is that you share that scary part of like, I'm going to go do it. Like you share, it's raw. Like you expose it to the people that you are close with, but also the people that you don't know. So for example, when you wrote your theme song to the Commanders, because that was something you wrote a song and, suddenly, wait a minute, like, and then you share it with people that are going to give you honest feedback, but are also going to be kind and supportive. So I think that message of what you're doing, you are, and we've talked about this before, the state motto for North Carolina is SAESSE Quam QUAM Videre. And the translation, that's Latin, is to be rather than to seem. And I love that. That's one of my favorite sayings. And I love the school that I went to in Philadelphia. That was our school motto, but you're really being versus seeming. And I think that that's how people can get get across the finish line. If you really are being, not seeming, if you're only seeming, you're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be, it's just, it's going to be a futile,
I tell you what, it's like
waste of time and money.
People,
and it's not
good people
work
around you can make a world of difference. You know, some people are self-driven. Some people have good people around them to shore up the parts that they're weak in. Like you're a great motivator. You know, you're a great person to lift people up. You know, I don't want to say cheerleader, but but you are that person, right? And so sometimes when a person's like, I don't know if I can do this, or they may not say it, but deep down inside, there's that feeling like I can't do this. And you're always willing to jump on board and say, well, look, I know this person, and how can I help with that? And blah, blah, blah. Man, those, you know, you need those type of people. You need some people that'll be strict and kind of get into your life and say, hey, you got to clean this up, and you can't do this and you can't do that. We need people in our lives. And I used to be, you know, that lone warrior. That's the way that's the way I used to watch when I did my Chinese movies. You were always that lone warrior who fought and did everything by yourself, and you realize in life it's not by yourself. Regardless, there's always going to be people around you. And so
I feel like a lot of times you also lose some people in your life along the way, you know, when you're doing these things. And sometimes that's a good thing, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's I was trying to do my own little study on Jesus, because I was reading in the Bible, and there's times where I would read, I'm like, man, he's kind of harsh to people, you know, get thee behind me, Satan. And, or, you know, let you know, I'm here to serve my people and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, why would you talk like that? And, you know, in doing some research, you just find, like, when you have a purpose, you have to focus on that purpose. And there are going to be people who are going to try to pull you down, and you can try to help, but then sometimes you got to let people go, because you'll spend all your time trying to deal with that person, and they'll drag you down, because the most comfortable place to be is having everybody around you that feels the same way. And that's a person that's also a person who's down. Sometimes they will drag you down just because they want you to feel comfortable. When I told this one former coach, that I was going to do some stand-up comedy, he's like, why? You're not funny. You'll never make it. I was like, dude, man, hello to you too. I was like, thank you very much.
Right. Well, sometimes misery loves company, and some people like to pull you down to their level. You have to let those people go. I learned that a long time ago. It's kind of like being a recovering alcoholic.
100%.
I have had a few of those people in my life, and they have to change their friends when they recover from alcohol or drugs. You can't have the same friends.
100%. It's too many things that become comfortable in a negative zone, and sometimes you have to let it go. And you know, it's bad at the moment, but ultimately it's good for you. So yeah, I mean, my life is, everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Marnie and I were like, everyone you meet has a story.
And it could be good, bad, it could be perspective, it could be whatever, but everyone has a story. And your story may not be for anybody but the one person you're telling it to. And so, you know, I look at myself, look, I played a game that I happened to be halfway decent at, and I had fun, and I had an incredible career, and I had, you know, I've had a lot of blessings in my life. It's good, but it's not, my life is no special than anybody else's life. It has no more greater value than anyone else's life. Just, you know, things happen, but everyone has a story, and some of the things that you hear of people's lives are just, you know, some of the saddest things ever, and then some of the things are some of the greatest things ever. And sometimes you hear some of the people that come through and make a big difference, and, you know.
Well, I think we all have peaks and valleys in our entire life, right? And we also have dysfunction. Everyone has dysfunction. It's just different levels of dysfunction.
100%.
I had to learn that a long time ago. It's okay, but we all have it. And if people seem to act like they don't have it, you know, I kind of question those people, because we all have dysfunction.
I mean, people don't know. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know, or sometimes people put blinders on because they don't want to see it and don't want to recognize it.
Don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it. But the reality is that we all got to walk our own paths, and so you can't worry so much about what that person is doing. You got to worry about the path that you're walking. And that's
Well, all we can do is control ourselves, right?
100%. Well, I was going to say, even that's a journey to control yourself.
That is,
You know,
that
I
is a
think in
journey.
coaching, and it might have been Coach Vermeil or Coach Knoll or something. And this is, I love about sports and I love about some of these metaphors is the lessons.
100%.
Like the coaching lessons are, it isn't what anyone else is doing on the field. It's only what you're doing on the field that really matters. So like the rest of it just has to go away. And we really are only able to worry, like to control what we're doing on the field, how we're showing up, how we're preparing, what we're bringing to the field, what level of dedication we're bringing. Because what anyone else is doing, and I think that that's why sometimes being on a team, if everybody isn't bringing that level of what you're bringing, it can be it can be challenging because you want to see results. But at the end of the day, it's really only what you're doing on the field that is going to make a difference.
I mean, that's the great value of sports and team sports is that, you know, you can get it summed up in a short amount of time. Life is a whole big journey, but a lot of those metaphors that you use in sports can apply to everyday life. And so, you know, that's it. So that's my story. I mean, right now I'm just trying to, I know my purpose now. I believe I know what my purpose is. And I'm trying to push into that and walk into it. And then also just change my mindset of saying, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. And don't look back and just keep believing that this is what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes, I tell you what, in football, the biggest difference between a guy catching a ball and missing a ball is just reaching out just a little bit, right? Making a tackle and missing a tackle is believing that you're going to make the tackle and reaching out, or believing that guy's too far away and not reaching out. Same distance, same whatever, but it's the belief. It's what your mind says to your body. And that's what makes you better. And so I think life right now is just about, what do you believe? Are you willing to take that step, that little bitty step, that little bit of reach out, and it can make the biggest difference in the world. We'll say this real quick. Playing football, it's a football game in the NFL. I'm running. It's my first I think year or two in the first year in the NFL. I'm running. I beat the offensive lineman. I see the quarterback. I hear the crowd. And in my mind, I stop and I'm like, wow, they're cheering for me. And when I stopped and listened to them cheering for me, the quarterback juked me because I was listening to the crowds, and he juked, and then I missed him. And then I just heard everybody go, oh. And I was like, wow, don't take your eyes off the prize. Don't listen to the stuff around you. Focus on what you're supposed to do. And that was kind of a lesson in life that I keep trying to teach myself now.
That is a great lesson, Ken. I have goosebumps from that because it's so true. It's like if you are running or doing whatever and you actually allow yourself to tune out whatever, the good or the bad, then you can get closer to where you need to be. And you have to just keep doing it consistently. But I love that metaphor. And that is a great, who was the quarterback? Do you remember?
I just remember the boo, they didn't boo me, just the, oh. I was like,
yeah. Like I know that sound. Like I was probably in the crowd.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah. I mean, because you see ultimately that's what's so fun about watching a game and being a fan. There's really there's nothing more fun than being a fan. I mean, maybe being an athlete on the field, but as a fan, because it brings everybody together. So, one of the things that, I love, football, obviously, and the great and strong, courageous men who played the game and their partners and families who helped them, during the hard weeks to get ready for the game and all that stuff. But just being a fan is something so fun. So thank you, Ken, for sharing your story and telling us many different things that we all probably can learn a lot from. I know I can. So every time I get a chance to have a one-to-one with Ken Harvey, I come out feeling a lot better. So thank you.
Thank you guys. I mean, look at you right now. I mean, this is amazing. You're doing a podcast. You're out there. You're stepping out. You're doing it. Everyone can complain. They can say whatever they want, but very few people actually step up and do it. And then the ones that step up and do it, then there's another level. And then after that, there's another level, but you guys are doing it. And to me, there would have been a time where I wouldn't have even tried because it was just seemed so far away. So you guys, not, have to go crazy patting yourself on the back, but you're doing it and you're getting these all-star guests. So you're big time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, plus also, first of all, I will say this, that I've had, have we done our show 3 years? It'll be 4 years now, I think. 3 years of experience with you guys, and that's not easy. Keeping up with you and John is not easy, I will say, but it's worth every second. But also, I want to make my friends and the people and my family that have invested in me, I want to make them proud too. So it's like, those are things that matter to me. People that have made sacrifices for me, I don't want to be a squanderer of their time, their money, their connections, whatever it is. So I better get off my behind and continue to move the ball down the field and stay away from those scary linebackers so they don't, knock me down. But that's really what it is. It's about, again, I want to make the people that are important to me and that have spent time with me proud. And that's what I think that is exciting and motivates me to get up. And
it's probably why we write
going.
Children's books, because so many kids are the seeds that are planted when they're young are the fruits that come up when they're older. And there are a lot of kids who don't get the right seeds planted or don't get the right nourishment or don't get the right protection and all that stuff. And so, it's easy to point the finger, but how many people are actually trying to do something about it? And so, we as book writers and all that stuff, yay, book writers. I tend to scare people. I'm like, hey, big old me. And I look at them, I'm like, yeah, I got a book for your kid. Hey, it's free. They're like, the heck?
I know. Well, Ken, we're gonna have to do game day at the Commanders together. That's happening in the very near future. So that will be something fun for us to collaborate on. But
I love hearing your story.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And your kids' books and your stories. I mean, and by the way, writing a novel is really difficult. I tried it. It was really hard.
What?
It's not good.
For me, it was
for me.
The first 30 pages, I was kind of, I go through it. I kind of knew the beginning. I knew the emotion I wanted from it. And I knew the direction it was going to go. But then after the 30 pages, that's when you had to, develop that habit of, 1 hour a day sitting somewhere and blah, blah, doing it, whatever, good or bad, right or wrong. So I don't know if my book's any good, but the cover looks good. So maybe it's a good book.
They're very good. You're a very talented
judge a book
writer.
by its cover.
Good one.
You're a very talented writer, Ken. And so thank you for joining us and giving us your time. And we appreciate it very much. So for everyone, Bench to Bold, I'm Marnie.
And I'm Elisa.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Ken.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you.